Welcome to slimtree.com. Benefit from this Yoga 2 intermediate video by creating a safe, quiet, and comfortable environment. We want you to familiarize and educate yourself with the help of this video by watching at least once through before acting on any of the contained information. Now get ready and enjoy. We'll begin this practice today sitting in a slightly more intermediate pose, half lotus. In this posture, it requires you to bring one of your feet up on top of the crease between the hip. If your right foot doesn't quite fit there comfortably, try to hold it for a while because you might be able to increase the stretch at the ankle, in the knee, and also in the hip. The other foot can be stacked under the thigh, or you can slide the foot forward, just resting directly in front of the opposite knee. So again, we'll begin with the breath. Remember that the breath is intended to be taken in and out of the nose. So as you sit, close your eyes and connect with that breath, enjoying that smooth flow in and the gentle flow out. You want to make sure that you take a complete breath. So not just using the upper portion of the lungs, but using the diaphragm and breathing fully into the belly, allowing the breath to float all the way up to the collarbones and then gently down. Let's take one more breath in this pose. Also being sure to keep your shoulders back right over the hips so as not to lean forward in the pose. Feeling the length of the spine, the chin slightly dropped, and the neck long and flat at the back. From here, you're going to transition into a twist. So, keeping the legs comfortably, or if you'd like, you can switch the position of the legs in order to get a good stretch on the opposite leg. From here, the arms will come up gently overhead, inhaling so that you can create length along the sides of your body. And then as you exhale, twisting to your right side first, the left hand comes around and presses against the outside of the right leg. Remember, with the twists, going deeper means working on your exhalation. So the right ribs move back and the left ribs gently come forward, keeping the chin dropped and the spine nice and long. Take one more complete breath, wringing out any tension that's accumulated along your lower back today. And then as you breathe in again, take the arms up, lengthening the sides of the body once again, and exhale this time to your opposite side, to your left. So the right hand comes around and grabs gently onto the left knee, left hand props behind you. If your hands and your arms aren't able to reach the floor, then you can also bend the elbow and rest the hand at your lower back, moving from the collarbone out to the tip of the shoulder, starting at the center of the body and then working your way up to deepen the twist. Never try to force yourself into the twist by really pulling aggressively on the arms. Excellent. Finishing that last breath out the nose and then inhale, bring the arms slowly up overhead, bringing the hands down back into the heart center. From here, transitioning into the next posture, cobbler's pose. Bring the soles of your feet together. So you want to have the heels and the toes touching. Start with the back straight, the chin dropping, and the chest is going to move forward slightly, just to give a little stretch to the lower back. As you come forward, cup the hands over the toes, drop the chin, and pause when you come about halfway down. Again, creating that length by lifting. Imagine that you all have a ponytail like this at the back of your head, creating that long line all the way through the spine. The hips are relaxing. As you move the breath all the way down, let your head drop now and round the upper back. This is a wonderful stretch to release tension in the lower back and through both the right and the left hips. You are using some of your abdominals here, so as you exhale, use them to gently draw you down closer to the toes, or if you can, bringing the forehead as close to the floor as you're able to go. Finishing that last cycle of breath. Inhale, slowly come up. Moving into our next pose, boat pose. Bring the hands back, and if you remember in the first video, we started with the legs bent. Let's begin that way, and I'll give you the option to do a more intermediate pose. If you have built up strength along the spine and your core muscles, try extending the legs this time. It looks easy, but it's a little challenging, so do your best. Just remember that you have to continue to breathe. The arms can come up alongside the legs, Maintain that breath. Taking another full inhale, and then slowly bend the knees, lower the feet back to the floor. From here, just press the hands back behind you, roll onto the hands. In fact, you might want to take them back a little bit further. Stretch the legs all the way out. Start with the feet flexed. The toes are pointing up, finding the strength in the top of the legs. Squeezing the quadriceps, pressing into the arms, moving into upward facing plank. From here, lift the sit bones. Very similar to bridge pose, but you're using the entire body. The arms and the legs are fully working. Holding here for 2 more complete breaths. Keep finding the breath, moving down into the arms, moving down into the legs. I know it's challenging. Hold 1 more complete breath in. And then exhale, slowly float down onto your sit bones. From here, transitioning into a forward bend. So the legs are going to stay together. If you have tension in your lower back, maybe your hamstrings are very tight, then you can let your knees soften a little bit. So a little bend is fine for this pose. The forward bend is going to bring you down slowly over the legs. Again, starting with that long spine. The back of the head slightly lifted, the rib cage moving forward over the thighs. The toes are pointing up. This is to help open the back of the legs. So if you point your toes, you'll notice that the calves constrict and the muscles get tight along the back of the legs. You want to find length in this pose that allows you to settle in and fold gently into yourself. This is a very calming, relaxing, and nurturing pose. Take time to enjoy this forward bend. Let's move along to the more energizing part of our practice. To begin this segment, we're going to start in dog pose, which you should be very familiar with by now. Give yourself time to work into this pose. It does take a long time to open up the shoulders and the hamstrings. So transitioning from the seated posture, bring your hands forward, and as you put weight onto your hands, lift your sit bones and just swing the legs back slowly, sliding the knees up off the floor, reaching back. And again, starting with a slight bend in the knees until you feel that release in the lower back. My best suggestion when you come into this pose is to keep a tilt in the pelvis. It'll feel awkward if you start to round the back because then you'll lose that stretch in the hamstrings. So just a few reminders to keep you comfortable in this posture. From here, we're going to start by stepping up the feet, again, right between the hands. As you step up into the forward bend, continue to let your knees bend, working on lengthening the spine. As you feel your body getting warmer, you might try to go a little deeper in this forward bend, so you can take your hands behind your ankles, wrapping the hands around the back of the legs, and then trying to lift the sit bones. So the sit bones are going to start to come up and just taking the hamstrings slightly deeper into that stretch. Holding the pose for 2 more complete breaths, finding equal weight on the back of the heels and also in the front of your toes. From here, we're going to start moving into our sun salute 2. This is a slightly more challenging sun salutation because there's a little bit more movement and some new postures. So give yourself time to get used to this one. From here, roll up off your legs, bring the arms out slowly, inhale, standing up, finding length along the sides of the body. As you exhale, bring the hands into the heart center and pause for a moment. Grounding into both heels, making sure the toes are open, the feet are spread wide. Remember that it's very important that you maintain the flow of your breath in through the nose and out through the nose. Every movement has a breath. From here, bring the arms up. As you do, bend the knees, reach the arms up overhead, pressing equally into both legs. Exhale, flow forward over the legs. Place your hands right next to your feet. From here, inhale, look halfway up, finding that length in the spine. Exhale, step both feet back. This time we're going into plank. This is a challenging pose. It requires strength on both the front and the back side of the body. From here, lower the chest all the way down to the floor, and then inhale, move forward, pressing the arms straight and lengthening the whole front side of the body. From this pose, moving back, flowing into dog pose, tucking the toes under, rolling again flat onto the feet. Bring the right leg right up between the hands, dropping the heel, moving the arms up slowly overhead into warrior 1. just briefly. As you begin to exhale, flow back down. Notice the body building heat and finding energy. Step that right leg back slowly into dog pose. Enjoy that breath. Breathe. Now let's start the second cycle. Bring both of your feet back up to the forward bend, stepping all the way up, softening the knees, taking the forward bend maybe a little deeper each time. Inhale, this time straight back, wide arms. Use the strength of the back to come all the way up. Hands to the heart, pausing with them down at the chest, just briefly. Good, now continue on. Bend the knees, second set, bring the arms up, reach through the arms, gaze to the floor, exhale, folding forward. Long sweeping fluid movements. Inhale, halfway look up, beautiful. Exhale back. Step the feet again back into plank pose, or you can hop. The hop is slightly more challenging. You choose what works for you. Exhale, lower the chest again to the floor. Inhale, sweeping the chest forward into upward dog. Beautiful. Exhale, roll back over the toes. Holding that dog pose, finding the length, making sure that the breath is in a comfortable rhythm. Step the left leg up this time, dropping the right heel, coming briefly into your warrior pose, finding that length, opening the heart, and then exhale, flowing back down. Step the left leg back to dog pose and rest. So upon finishing that second sun salutation series, you're going to need to give yourself a moment to catch the breath and feel the effects of the pose. Notice the extra energy moving through the body as the blood circulates freely to all of the muscles. Breathe. From here, we're going to move on and learn a new standing pose, Warrior Two. So to begin, I'd like you to take your right leg and step through your hands. As you drop the left heel, pivot the toe so the back of the foot is parallel to the floor. The left arm comes up and forward, windmilling back, and the right arm extends out. Breathe. Good. The shoulders shouldn't be tense, so you want to let them drop and sink into the lunge, finding that strength in your legs. And then moving into a variation of this pose, side angle. The right elbow comes to the knee, the left arm extends. There's this long line that connects from the heel all the way to the left fingertips. Your hand can be soft. It doesn't have to be tense. Taking a full breath in. Once you get really good at this pose, you might try to bring the hand to the floor inside the right foot. If you find that you lose your rotation and you tend to collapse the ribs forward or roll the hip, then you just might not be ready for that. So choose what works for you. Now from here, lower the left hand to the floor. Step back, again pausing in your dog pose, reaching through the legs, tilting the tailbone, letting the head release down. Beautiful. Now let's transition to the other leg. So the left leg steps forward between the hands, windmill the right arm back, grounding into the right leg. The arms are nice and wide, the chest is dropping, noticing that nice long line on the back side of the body. The knee always stays right over the ankle. Nice full breath, the elbow comes to the thigh. The left arm drops to support you. Your right arm extends over, connecting the heel again to the fingertips, keeping a soft line of energy. Going further in the pose, just be aware of your hips, making sure that this right hip stays back, the right ribs spin. And then as you exhale, bring the right hand to the floor, coming down. Step back with the left leg, resting in your dog pose. Now for some people, this may be a neutral pose. You feel like you can recover your breath here. If you don't, you can always go to child's pose, which is even more of a neutral posture, by bringing the knees down onto the floor, letting your ribs rest on the top of the thighs. It's your choice, so be sure to honor your body and do what works for you. Now we'll move into the cooling phase of this intermediate practice today. Let's begin where we ended in child's pose. Just taking a moment here to check back in with your breath. And I'd like you for this last portion of your class today to slow your breathing down, to enjoy that exhalation which really allows you to relax into your body. We're going to come up and do one more dog pose just to transition into the next asana. So bring the arms out slowly. take your time coming up into this pose. And in this last visit in dog pose today, I just want you to take a moment to pause and notice if there's any extra length in the back of the legs, if the shoulders feel more open, if the entire spine feels more spacious. Once you get really comfortable with this pose, this should be a fairly comfortable place for you to rest between doing other postures. Taking another long, complete breath in, and then exhale completely out. Now let's transition back to that plank pose. So inhale, come forward, and just long enough to hold. Finding the strength in your arms, and use that strength to lower your belly all the way down onto the floor. Breathe. Bring your legs down so that the toes point, and the arms are going to slide down along the floor with the palms facing up. For a moment, you can either rest your forehead to the floor or turn your head to the left side. In this posture, it's a back bend, and it's going to help you build strength along the back of your body, but you want to make sure that you bring the breath into it to help you lift off the floor. So let's start with the front of the body, lifting the shoulders up first and the top of the upper arm bones. The head reaches from the back of the skull. Remember, this is where you lengthen your spine from. Now finding energy, use the gluteals, bring the legs up, really soaring high. If you feel like you can bring your arms up, float your hands by your hips or maybe even higher. Now the tendency is to hold the breath. I want you to work through that challenge. Take another big breath in. Beautiful. And then exhale, come down. To rest, you're going to bring your hands back underneath the shoulders. Keep the knees together, pressing back into Mecca. In this posture, again, taking that forward bend to release all the work that you've just done here along the back of your body. Also give your elbows a chance to relax onto the floor. Notice the tension falling away from the upper shoulders, the sit bones resting on the heels, and the breath expanding through the whole back side of your body. Take one more complete breath, noticing that inhale lifting you slightly up and the exhale dropping you down. From here, transitioning into rabbit pose. This is another forward bend, but it's going to also help you build a lot of strength in your abdominals, which support you in other postures in yoga. The arms are going to come back, and I want you to reach back and find your heels. If for some reason you have trouble reaching your hands that far, when you come up, you can also reach your hands back behind your legs. From here, the forehead will stay down, and you're going to try to tuck it close to your knees. So the back already starts to round, and you're going to increase that by lifting your sit bones off the heels. The floating ribs, they come up a little bit, and the back rounds. Remember, don't hold your breath. Keep breathing so you feel a slight expansion. Hold. And then remember, if you can't reach the heels, just bring the hands back behind your legs, wrapping onto the forearms or the wrists. There's always more than one way to learn how to do these postures. From rabbit pose, release the strength of the belly, rest back down slowly into child's pose, just long enough to transition. Breathe. Now from here, we're going to come back up, so rolling back up onto your sit bones. From this position, let's reach the arms forward. Walk your knees slowly up, cross the ankles, and then roll back onto the sit bones, finding your weight all the way down onto the sit bones. The hands come back next to the hips. And so to use the length of your mat appropriately, scoot your hips up a little bit, stretch the legs out, sliding the legs up till the feet come close to the top of the mat. And then from here, roll again, down slowly onto the spine. Just be careful not to overstrain any weak muscles in the back or in your abdominals. In this pose, you're going to start with the feet a little bit closer up to the back of the legs, dropping down so that you feel weight on your sacrum. The arms are going to reach up and grab onto the knees, pulling the knees into the chest. And what I want you to be aware of as we transition into plow pose is if you have a lot of weakness in your lower back. If that's the case, then you may just want to choose to take the legs straight up into the air. If you find that you can pull the legs over the shoulders, then using the abdominals, curl. You can also use your hands to assist. and letting the legs drop back. So you're just relying on gravity to stretch through the back of the legs and into the lower back. Also, be aware of how you shift your weight. You want to keep equal weight on the right and the left shoulder, and being aware of the neck. The chin is just resting softly at the throat, no gripping the chin down or tightening in the muscles of the neck. The breathing should stay the same. If you feel pain or discomfort in this pose, then rock yourself down quickly. Sometimes lowering slowly aggravates the muscles that are weak in the lower back. This pose is intended to bring circulation into the body back to the heart. So taking it further into a half shoulder stand, the hands come up to the back, and just start by lifting the legs up a little bit. You don't have to go for perfection. The legs can just come up maybe 45 degrees, allowing that blood to flow down out of the feet, traveling back into the belly and then into the heart. This posture is intended to be calming, not stressful. So if you find that you're becoming uncomfortable, then lower your feet back down and come out. Otherwise, let's stay for 2 more complete breaths, enjoying that release through the lower back. Also notice that the facial muscles are soft and relaxed. There's no tension at the brows, the eyes are relaxed, and even the back teeth are relaxed in the jaw. So let's practice coming out of this pose, transitioning back to the floor. Start to come down with the legs and bend your knees just slightly until they melt into the rib cage. Lower the back. Remember, if it feels uncomfortable, come out a little quicker. Bringing the hands again onto the knees and just resting in reverse child's pose. And I'd like you to stay here for at least 3 or 4 breaths and really checking in with your spine, making sure that the lower back feels comfortable and allowing it to rest in a flat or a neutral position. Because in your final pose, you want to make sure that the body is at ease, that you can enjoy the benefits of the practice without being distracted by parts of the body that feel unsettled. So just checking in with your body, notice that that breath still continues to move, flowing in and out. So to complete our practice today, we'll end with corpse pose. In this posture, it's important that you enter in slowly, just like you would any other posture, being aware of any tension that still exists in the body. As you start to stretch the legs out, go slowly, extending the right and then the left leg down to the floor. And allow your legs to release so there's no tension in the thighs, in the calves, or in the feet, and also in the upper body. So the back of the shoulders rest, the hands are to the floor, and the head rests effortlessly. Spend at least 3 or 4 breaths in this final pose without any effort in the breath, so you can discontinue breathing in and out of the nose and just breathe naturally, enjoying all the peaceful benefits and efforts that this yoga practice has restored to you today. Now we've come to the end of our Yoga 2 intermediate video. We'd like to say thank you, and we hope you will return soon.